Hello, I welcome you to this edition of this training. And in today's class, we'll be talking about the grid layout. So this is what we are going to be designing on today's class. And if you look at this, this is a grid containing numbers, and it is responsive. So when you drag it, it adjusts to the size of the width of the browser. Although if you look at it, um, it contains the digits of a number. So what I will be doing this time around may be a little bit different from what we have here. So we should be having a screen, something like a calculator, where there will be a screen here, and then there will be numbers here, so that you can press on the numbers and it displays on the screen. So let's get on with that. So I have a blank HTML called grid.html. So I'm going to go ahead to open um, the default HTML5 template, and let me call this grid layout. Now let's get to the body. So I am going to first of all have my H1 or H2, so rather, and then I'll call it grid layout. So let me display this to my browser. All right, so we have it on the browser. So grid layout. All right, let's now have a container for the screen. So we can call it a class. We can set it as a class screen, and then let's have within it a paragraph. So let's say this is 0.00 because we are building a calculator. Then down it, we are going to be having a grid container. So I'm going to create dot, there's a class grid grid dash container. So now within the grid container, we should be having the buttons, which is the grid items. So I am going to call this a class of grid items or item. And the first one is 0. So I'm going to duplicate all these. I'm going to copy all these and duplicate them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Let's change the numbers. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6, this is 7, this is 8, and it's remaining 1, and then this is 9. So we have the all buttons like this. I think we are done with the grid containers or the grid items. So let's go with let's get on with the CSS. So I'm going to go to my layouts and create a main.css. Now I am going to link it I'm going to link it to my HTML. So let's get on link layouts for my file path, and the CSS is main.css. So we have linked it. Now let's set all the parts of this website to border box sizing, border box. It doesn't have any effect though, but it helps you to lay it out properly. All right, so the first thing is we should be working on the let's center this text, so which is H2. So let's center it. So we can say H2, and we set the text line to center to make sure it is centered. Then let's have the screen as well, and it's a class. So we say dot screen, which is a class, and we can set it to have a border so that we can differentiate it. So we say border border style. You can set it to 2 pixels solid, or rather we can just set it to solid. So we have this as solid. So let's give it a little padding of about 12 pixels padding, and then I think it's okay now. Let's also center the text. So we can center the text by text aligning it to center. All right, so so we have the screen here. Now the buttons is next. So, and if you come here, you see that the buttons have equal sizing. And we in our HTML, we set it as a grid container, and then it has a child or children of grid item. So the first thing we have to do is to set this grid container to display grid. So we can go to this, and then we say grid dot, because it's a class, dot grid dash container, and then we want the container to display grid. All right, so it is now displaying grid. We need to differentiate it with a background color. So we can set but to make it different from each other, we need to make sure that they have different colors, because if I set my background color here, background color, and maybe set it to something like aqua, you will see there are no difference between the two, the whole grids. So, but we don't need to do this. So what we need to do is to make sure we do it on the grid items. So we say grid dash item, and we can bring in this. We may not see the difference right now, but if we set the margin to 5 pixels, for example, you will now see they are different and they have taken different lines. Now, but if you look at this one, you see how they look, they are not too big, bold to attached to each other, boldly attached with each other. So we have to do that under the grid container by setting up the grid template column. So we say grid dash template columns, and we can set the sizes of what we have, and for every grid it has a margin, or sorry, a margin of 12 pixels as well as 100%. So if we want to differentiate this side, the sizes of each of the box in percentage, and we want it to be 5 in numbers, so we can specify it by 20%, because 20 divided by 100 is 5, and that's why we have 5 buttons. If you count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if we don't want, if we want all the buttons to display at once, we can set it to 10%, which is 100 divided by 10 is 10. So all the buttons will be aligned in one horizontal row. But when we want to align it in two, we have to specify it in a way that it has to fit in with the total amount of margin it has. So let's do this. Let's set it to 20%, 20%. So let's always display from here. 20%, 20%. You can see what is happening there. If I specify another 20% again, it will be 3. I specify another 20% again, it will be 4. I specify another 20% again, it will be 5 buttons. So these are the 5 buttons that we have there. So but what about if you don't want to write in percentage? So we can also specify it by pixels. So we can say 2 pixels, 2 pixels. You can see it's getting smaller. So it can also be in percentage, in pixels. It can as well be in other units. If I want it to be in 10, so let's say 10%, 10%, 10%. So it has to be 10 in numbers, 10%, 10%, 10%. Let's watch. Now you can see that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the more I give the 10%, the more I am having it increasing. So remaining 1, 10%. And you will see all of them are now aligned within one row. So this is it. This is just it. So, but I don't want it to be like this. I want it to be in 20s, in 5. Then I want to give a little padding here. Padding, 12 pixels, and is now bold. And then let's center the text by text aligning it to center, and this is it. So we now have a calculator with buttons from 0 to 9. So this is just how to specify your grid containers and your grid items. So thank you very much for uh, being in this class. I'll see you in our next class. But before I go, somebody asked a question from the previous classes. Somebody said that they were having issues trying to import um, icons into their website. So I'm going to just use some illustration to express that within this same video so that I won't have to do another video on that. So it will cover the class where we should have done that particular topic on how to import icons and fonts into your website. So there are so many font producers out there, or font marketers out there, but I am going to work with the Google font. So to get the Google font, I can simply type Google fonts, or you can just simply go to font.google.com. So when you go to font.google.com, you can actually get those fonts. So whichever font that you need, you can get them. But what we are looking for is icons. So we can simply go to this top here and click on icons. So you will see different types of icons. You see the outlined icons, the rounded icons, the sharp ones. So whichever one you want. So for now, I am going on with the outline. Now, let's say I want to import these icons into my web page. All right, so the first thing I will need to do is to click on the icon you want, and then make sure you copy the link, the CSS link. So this is the CSS link to this font. I'll then come to uh, my code under the just under the main CSS. I'll paste it just below it. All right, I've imported it automatically. Now the next thing is to go to that font. So this is the icon I want to select. So if you want to import it through CSS, you can use this one. But if you want to import it through HTML class, you use this one. So I'm going to click on this to copy it. Come back to my code. If I want to import it under the one, around the one, the zero stuff, the zero button, I can simply paste it there. So once I paste it there, it's going to load, and you can see what I have there. I have an icon there already. Okay, let's import another icon on the one button. So let's go there. So let's say I want to import the settings, this one setting icon. So I can click there. I no longer need to import this CSS link because I've already imported it already. So what I will do is I'll just come down here to the class again and then click on it and then come back to my code. And I want to import it under the one button. I just come there, paste it. If your website reloads, you see the icon, you can see it there. Let's do one more icon. All right, let's select this one, the delete button, click on it, go to the class, select it, come back to your code, and let's say under the to button, paste it there. It will automatically be put there. So this is how to do it. So let's one more Facebook. Let's go for Facebook. So let's come here and search for Facebook. Facebook. So there is no icon called Facebook, but I think it's supposed to be here, which there should be a Facebook icon. So, but wherever you, whatever icon that you need, if you don't find it in the Google font, there are some other font vendors out there that you can still get it from. We have the Font Awesome, you have the box icons, you have the Iconifies, and so many of them. So you can simply go there and get whichever icon that you need. So I think having done this, I think I've solved this problem. But if you have any other question, you can use the comment section. Thank you very much. I hope to see you next class.